nani kutafuta kura. Nyinyi ni wa hapa, mnaelewa ya kwamba hii siyo kawaida yetu. Wengi wanatafuta kurudi hapa, wengi wanataka kukuwa magavana kama mimi nawania kiti cha ugavana cha Vihiga. Kwa hivyo hii siyo kawaida yetu. Tunawakaribisha na tunawatakia kila laheri mnapoendelea na kujifunza kwa wiki ile moja ambayo mtakuwa hapa. Asanteni.
Senator Gertrude Musuruve.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to join you in welcoming the visitors in the House. And I want to thank the delegation that has come from the counties to be here with us. And it must be very clear, as the delegation is coming here, they must know very well that we know and we are committed to ensuring money is allocated and disbursed to the counties, and that the service delivery in the counties, but the onus is on county assemblies to ensure that the money is rightly utilized, that service delivery has been done effectively, and that public participation also has taken place effectively in the counties. I also want to thank the visiting students from the US. I've seen some of them are old, some of them are young, and this is very good because benchmarking in the Senate to see what exactly happens in leadership is very important, because when it comes to our future actually is in the hands of the youths. As we are grooming them, as they come to the Senate, they see how we are legislating, then they'll have something to take home. Honorable Speaker, I support you in actually welcoming all these visitors in the House. Thank you.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika pia kunipa fursa hii kujiunga nawe pamoja na maseneta wenzangu kuwakaribisha wahudumu wa maktaba kutoka kaunti zilizotajwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, maktaba ni kiungo muhimu cha elimu na vile vile pia cha taasisi tofauti tofauti ili kuweza kujua tunatoka wapi na nakwenda wapi. Na nafikiri yale ambao wataweza kusoma hapa itasaidia pakubwa Mheshimiwa Spika kuweza kutengeneza maktaba na makavazi mazuri kwa vizazi vijavyo. Mheshimiwa Spika, hapa bungeni tuna utaalamu mwingi na vile vile pia tuna vitabu na stakabadhi nyingi ambazo zisaidia pakubwa kutuelimisha sisi kama maseneta na watu wengine kuhusiana na taratibu za bunge na mambo mengine kama hayo. Kwa hiyo kusoma kwao Mheshimiwa Spika, kuhudhuria kwao vikao hivi itasaidia pakubwa kuweza kujenga elimu na vile vile pia kujenga uhusiano bora kati ya bunge letu la Senate na zile kaunti ambazo zimekuja. Karibuni Mheshimiwa Spika, asante.
Senator Samson Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. From the onset, I want to welcome the team from 27 county assemblies, librarians that are being attached to the
Chair, Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 18th May 2022. This is the report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on its consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the Coffee Bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2020. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Senator Cherargei.
Sorry. Mr. Speaker, sir, a request for statement on the Kenya shillings 9 billion set aside for rehabilitation and improvement of the old Mombasa Road after the construction of the Nairobi Expressway. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation regarding the extra Kenya shillings 9 billion that has been set aside by the Ministry of Transport to be used in rehabilitation and improvement of old Mombasa Road, in brackets lower deck, after the construction of now the famous Nairobi Expressway. In the statement, Mr. Speaker, the committee should, one, state why the cost of the construction of the Nairobi Expressway, which has initially been projected to cost of Kenya shillings 65.2 billion, but later increased by Kenya shillings 7.6 billion to Kenya shillings 72.8 billion, as stated by Kenya National's Highways Authority, KENHA, did not factor in the cost of rehabilitation and improvement of Old Mombasa Road, the lower deck. Number two, explains the reasons for the ministry setting aside the Kenya shillings 9 billion, yet the contractor, China Roads and Bridge Construction Company, which is responsible for damages on the old Mombasa Road lower deck, and should take full responsibility. Number three, Mr. Speaker, sir, explain whether the contract had factored that was awarded to China Roads and Bridges Construction Company had factored escalation costs, stating the amount projected for escalation and variation on the construction of the road, that is now the expressway, considering this extra cost of rehabilitation of 9 billion. Mr. Speaker, sir, provide a comprehensive report on variations of cost in contracts for construction of other major roads in the country, if any, and the total amounts involved in such variation in all roads that are being raised to bitumen standards across the country. And finally, Mr. Speaker, provide a definite timeline. And you know, Mr. Speaker, most Kenyans who live along Mombasa Road had relocated because of the construction, and most businesses were closed along that route. Provide a definite timeline on completion of the renovation and rehabilitation works, giving a clear guideline on the usage of Nairobi Expressway, especially for emergency services such as fire engines, ambulances, and use for the VIP, among other emergency services. Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you.
Senator Stewart Mazai.
Bwana Spika, nataka kuongeza kidogo nikisema kwamba Bwana Spika, wale waliotengeza barabara walikuja hapa Kenya wakapata kwamba kuna barabara zake tayari, na hivi sasa wakatoboa mashimo, wakatengeza vile walivyotengeza, wametengeza barabara yao nzuri sana, hata mimi nishawahi kupita. Lakini sasa kule chini walikoharibu, kuna umuhimu ya kwamba anayeharibu ndio anayetengeza. Naona kuna mushkil hapo wa kwamba watu fulani sasa wanataka kuingia katika mambo ya ufisadi. Hizo 9 billion ni pesa za Wakenya, ni pesa za watu wa lalahoi ambao wanajaribu sana kuishi katika hii nchi, na hii nchi imekuwa ghali, watu hawawezi kuishi. Kwa hiyo tunataka kujua kitambo cha kwanza ni kwa nini wanauliza hili swala la kuongezwa pesa za 9 billion ili kutengeza sehemu ambayo iliharibiwa na wale waliopewa hiyo contract waitengeneze. Bwana Spika, tumekuwa na ufisadi sana ndani ya Kenya, na hususan hii wizara ya barabara. Ndani ya barabara, kama mtu anataka contractor yote anataka kuwa tajiri, anaenda katika upande wa takriban mambo ya kutengeza barabara, na tumeona hiyo ikitendeka, na watu wanaotengeza barabara kila siku wamekuwa matajiri wa kupitukia. Sasa hata hawaangalii tena umaskini wa Mkenya, imebidi ni kugandamizwa tu. Hivi sasa hiyo barabara ya kwanza, hiyo express highway, kupita juu unalipa bei ghali sana. Ukilipa shilingi 10,000, ukiangalia, ukienda airport, ukirudi, ukitoka, ukiingia ndani, ukiwa unaenda sijui pande gani na pande gani, niliangalia hii weekend 10,000 unaweza maliza na siku 2 kwa hizo barabara. Sasa mimi naweza kukuambia wazi Bwana Spika, ya kwamba huu ufisadi wa hali ya namna hii sisi kama Wakenya hatuwezi kukubali. Lazima kuweko na sababu mwafaka ambazo zitaeleza vizuri ya kwamba hizi pesa wanazouliza. Na Seneta Cherargei nataka kumpatia heko sana kwa sababu ya swala kama hilo. Tunataka kujua ni kwa sababu gani hii kampuni kama bado iko na sasa wanaendelea kuchaji wa Kenya. Hiyo pesa wanaochukua kuchaji wa Kenya kutembea katika hiyo barabara, watumie hiyo hiyo kutengeza hiyo barabara ambao wameharibu huko chini. Asante Bwana Spika.
Asante. Senator Gertrude Msurove.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to give my comments. And I want to start by thanking Senator Cherargei for bringing a very important statement on the floor of this House. And it is coming at a time when we are almost going for recess, and yet this is a very, very serious statement that needs to be pursued up to the end of it all. Honorable Speaker, there's need for the committee to ensure that it intervenes, interrogates, and finds out, the modality of payment of the money to the contractors. And if the contractors were paid upfront all the amount of money, what was the logic behind paying the contractors? There is no need of contractors being paid upfront before completing their jobs, and even every job must have a warrant. Because even when you go to buy a fridge, you are given a warrant of a guarantee of 1 year, 2 years, like that. So even for a road should not be, made this year and then next year it is being rehabilitated using taxpayers' money to do this. I think it is very wrong, and there's need to investigate. And also the committee should also inform the time frame, because the Senate is almost coming to an end. So we need to know, Kenyans need to know, and they must know when the road will be complete. And even, Honorable Speaker, as this committee investigates what Senator Cherargei has brought on board, I think it is also necessary for the committee to tell us about the express highway, where Kenyans are being made to pay 5,000. Now, for example, one person has about 3 vehicles or 4. Does it mean that for every vehicle you'll be being paid, Honorable Speaker? Because I'm wondering whether this is a road that is meant to help Kenyans, should be used by Kenyans, because it is now a business. So the expressway must come out clearly to say why they're using taxpayers' money to make a road that Kenyans will pay, while using the road. This is something we should not really keep quiet as Kenyans. We must really be given answers as to why this should be there. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that it is the honors of, the contractor to do any repairs that are there, but not the government to allocate a huge sum of money, taxpayers' money, again to, rehabilitate the road. And yet the contractor was paid full amount of money, Honorable Speaker. So there's need to investigate this. And Senator Cherargei, thank you so much for bringing this on the floor of this House. This is a statement that should not be taken for granted. It should be taken with the seriousness and the gravity in which it has come, it has come on the floor of this House, Honorable Speaker. I support this statement. Thank you.
Senator Faki.
Mimi pia najiunga na Senator Cherargei kuunga mkono maombi yake ya taarifa kuhusiana na barabara ya Mombasa Road. Mheshimiwa Spika, zabuni ya ile barabara moja kwa moja, yani Nairobi Expressway, ni tofauti na zabuni ya kurekebisha barabara ambayo ilikuwako hapo awali, barabara ya Mombasa Road. Haiwezekani Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba zabuni ile itolewe bila ya kufuata sheria, kwa sababu sheria inasema kwamba zabuni zozote za barabara zinazohusu fedha nyingi ni lazima ziende kwa mipango ya tenda. Itangazwe tenda, yoyote ambaye ana uwezo wa kufanya kazi ile aweze kupewa nafasi ya kuweza kuifanya. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii barabara ya moja kwa moja imejengwa kwa mfumo wa jenga, endesha, baadaye una transfer kwa serikali. Kwa hivyo itakuwa ni makosa na ni ubadilifu wa fedha kuacha tenda kama hii, Mheshimiwa Spika, kufanywa bila ya kufuata sheria, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo hii statement, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni muhimu sana, na ningeomba kamati ya transport ya bunge hili iangalie kwa makini na kwa haraka, kwa sababu kama tunavyojua muhula wa bunge unaenda kuisha, na hii ndio fursa ambayo watu wanaofanya kazi katika serikali huweza kupata nafasi ya kusaini zabuni ambazo hazina kichwa wala mguu, ili kufanya ubadilifu wa pesa za serikali. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Gertrude Msuruve for your statement.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 47-1 to make a statement on a matter of general topical concern, namely World Hypertension Day. Mr. Speaker, sir, the objective of the World Health Organization on this day is to communicate to the public the significance of hypertension and its serious medical complications, and to provide information on prevention, detection, and treatment. This day is celebrated every May the 17th. It was initiated by the World Hypertension League, an umbrella organization that unites national hypertension leagues and societies around the world. The theme for this year's World Hypertension Day is measure your blood pressure accurately, control it, live longer. In many parts of the world, millions and millions of people around the globe have died as a result of blood pressure and its related consequences. High blood pressure is often called the silent killer, and this is because most of the time it has no obvious symptoms to indicate something is wrong. Mr. Speaker, sir, high blood pressure is classified into 4 categories. That is, we have normal, prehypertension, that is mild, stage 1, moderate, and stage 2, severe. Histomi Arima et al., that is a scholar, in his 2011 research on mortality patterns in hypertension, stated that raised blood pressure is responsible for 7.6 million deaths per annum worldwide, more than any other risk factors. Around 54% of stroke and 47% of coronary heart disease are attributed to high blood pressure. Further adding that over 80% of this burden occurs in low and middle income countries. Blood pressure related diseases also contribute to cardiovascular deaths among people below the hypertensive threshold of 140/90 mmHg. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we commemorate this day, awareness on blood pressure is important because blood pressure is one of the vital signs used to check how well your body is. Blood pressure is measured in millimeters of mercury, that is the mmHg. The reading has 2 numbers. The first number is the systolic blood pressure, which is the pressure in your arteries when your heart. Systolic pressure, which is the pressure when your heart rests between beats. 120/80 mmHg. High blood pressure is usually managed by lifestyle changes. Mr. Speaker, sir, high blood pressure can for years the body. Uncontrolled high blood pressure can lead to disability or poor quality of life, attack, or stroke. Many Kenyans, high and mighty, low pressure and related causes. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we mark this day, I would like to mention with the county governments to take up the responsibility of one, creating awareness. Two, availing free blood pressure checkups in all county hospitals. Three, availing free medical awareness on how to prevent high blood pressure. And four, ensuring that every Kenyan has the highest attainable standard of health. I thank you for this opportunity and wish you all a happy belated World Hypertension Day. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I want from the onset to thank my sister, Senator Gertrude Musuruve. I think she has done exceptionally well. I would have really wished to see her in the next parliament because the grasp of issues and legislation that she has done in this house is yes, I would want to see her in the next parliament, either the National Assembly or the Senate. And I hope the party is taking of note through the deputy minority leader. Has exceptionally done well. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank her for bringing this issue. The issue of wildlife. Mr. Speaker, under Article 43 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, it states clearly in clear terms that access to highest quality of health in this country is a basic human rights. And we know basic human rights is very important in our Constitution of 2010. This is a silent killer, as you are saying, high blood pressure, Mr. Speaker. In fact, as she has put it, it is not killing only the mighty or the high. It's also ravaging our villages. And the worst part is that most of the people do not know that they are either suffering because there are no symptoms, Mr. Speaker. So I agree with that we must take, I know these are diseases that have resulted because of lifestyle and the choices that we make, but these are diseases that can be managed in ensuring that we change choices in our lives, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say these are reality, both at the highest level as the Senate, to the lowest level in our villages. This is the biggest challenge that we have as a country. And I think as we mark this day, we must take opportunity, and as Senate, Mr. Speaker, and Parliament, and other people who are salaried or government employees or private sector, some of them have access to be able to take medical checkups once in a while. And this is important that it can be detected early so that you can live a life to the fullest, because after some time it destroys organs of the body, the symptoms are not seen, and that is why some people call it silent killer, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's worth noting that health as it is has been devolved. And one of the requests of our colleague is to at least create in centers, county hospitals, sub-county hospitals, local dispensaries that we have, that ordinary people can walk to, like Mosoria Sub-County Hospital, and check their pressure, be it Kapsabet County Referral Hospital, or any other part, for example, in Nandi County, any other part in Laikipia, in Embu, in any other part, including Kilifi and Mombasa. We need that access. And the reason, Mr. Speaker, we devolve the health was to ensure we bring it closer to the people. That was the real intention of devolution. But up to now, the health sector is struggling. The health sector itself is in ICU because the challenges that are facing our health in our counties is one, there is the challenge of human resource issues. you find there is always been unsettled fight with governors on the issue of hiring, salaries, emoluments, Mr. Speaker, challenges that have bedeviled our health sector in our counties, Mr. Speaker. The reason, and I think the wisdom of the drafters of the Constitution to devolve health, they realize each and every Kenyan should be able to access an health center, a dispensary, a level 4 hospital, county referral hospital, of course, the national referral hospital like Moi Teaching and Referral. I think there is Mbagadi, there is Kenyatta National Hospital, and many others. I think there is one that has been built in near Mr. Speaker. These are things that governors can do, can walk in, don't know whether there are members here, but through the chair and through the answer, Mr. Speaker, if they can take note that this is a serious issue, we can also in future ensure as a Senate and as a Parliament also, we can also offer medical awareness and free medical checkup, especially after 9th of August, Mr. Speaker, and ensure that we attain. So I really want to thank Senator Gertrude Musuruve for this bringing to attention of the nation, bring to the attention of all of us that we need to look back. This is a silent killer. There are no vital signs, Mr. Speaker, but it is about the choices that we make in life. And I think county governments and national governments must be at the forefront to ensure our people do not continue to suffer in some of these things that we can prevent, Mr. Speaker. For those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I wish all of us, and most our brothers and sisters who suffer from high blood pressure, Mr. Speaker, on this World Hypertension Day, and wish well and call upon the sector players in health ministry to take note of this, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Cherargei. Chairperson, Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation. Is not there. Deferred. Next order.
Order number 8, motion Consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the Coffee Bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2020.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that pursuant to Standing Order 159, the amendments of the National Assembly to the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 22, number 22 of 2020, be now considered. Mr. Speaker, sir, first I wish to thank my committee, the Committee of Agriculture, for the diligent work that they have done in considering these amendments. Secondly, I wish to thank the stakeholders, both farmers and other stakeholders, who gave us very important inputs, or who brought very important inputs to the consideration of the amendments of this bill. Mr. Speaker, you remember when I moved this bill, I enumerated the problems of the coffee farmers. I enumerated the history of the coffee in this country. I also enumerated very clearly the reasons why Senate found it necessary to introduce a bill in this House. But the main reason was to alleviate the problems that the coffee farmers in this country go through, particularly the peasant coffee farmers in this country. Mr. Speaker, with these amendments, the amendments from the National Assembly, we do not agree with them. And Mr. Speaker, the problem is we cannot agree with some and disagree with the others. It's either we agree with all of them or disagree with all of them. That's the unfortunate bit. So we may agree with quite a number of the amendments that they have brought. But Mr. Speaker, the key amendments that they have brought really cannot be agreed with. The Senate found we cannot agree to them because they do not, they actually kill the very spirit of this bill. We brought this bill, Mr. Speaker, to this House, and this House considered the bill, and this House unanimously passed that bill because in the wisdom of the members, the bill addressed the core problem of coffee farming in this country. Mr. Speaker, you will remember that this House did feature and did indicate that since independence, we have never quite gotten ourselves out of the yoke of colonialism in some sectors. And one such sector is the coffee sector. Mr. Speaker, we have done very well in many other areas, including in the coffee, sector. But Mr. Speaker, what has happened is that the farmer has been held captive by marketers, by people who control their coffee beyond where they can themselves, where they can intervene. Mr. Speaker, what happens in the coffee sector is that once the coffee leaves the farmer's farm, it goes to their cooperative society. From their cooperative society, that coffee, which at that point is called parchment, moves on and goes to somebody called a miller, whose miller is licensed currently by AFA, but whose miller now mills that coffee. Mr. Speaker, after the coffee is milled, then it's taken to the auction. When that coffee is milled, Mr. Speaker, that is where the grades, coffee grades are realized, the grades which are taken to the auction. Mr. Speaker, the farmer has no way of knowing what kind of grades his coffee has realized until they are told by the millers. But Mr. Speaker, the mischief in the coffee industry in this country has been that the same miller has also been the marketer. The same miller holds two licenses, milling license and marketing license. So the mischief, Mr. Speaker, sir, has been that is only the miller who knows the grades of the coffee that they are taking to the auction. And the farmer does not know. And you know, the only information he has is what they have given by the millers. And when the coffee goes to the auction, then the same miller who now has another license called marketing license is the one who goes to market this coffee. Mr. Speaker, to cure that mischief in the bill which we passed in this House, to cure that mischief, Mr. Speaker, we introduced a direct payment system, what we call the DSS. Mr. Speaker, the DSS was meant to cure that problem, i.e., the farmer, once the cooperative or the farmer takes their coffee to the miller, the coffee still belongs to them. They can pick their coffee and take it to the auction themselves or through an agency which is appointed by them, by the farmer. That way, Mr. Speaker, the farmer will be guaranteed that the proceeds that they will get from their coffee is the actual proceed that they are entitled to as farmers. Mr. Speaker, currently that is not the case. Today, a farmer will take their coffee to a miller. The miller will now instruct the farmer, tell them you have so many bags of AA, of AB, of PB, and the miller will take that coffee to the auction, go and auction the coffee. The same marketing agent is the agent of the buyer, Mr. Speaker. And that is what has killed coffee farming in this country. That's what has driven the farmer out of their farms in coffee farming. Mr. Speaker, you will be shocked that the amount of revenue between the coffee marketing, when the coffee is taken to the auction, and what they realize when they sell the coffee, the amount therein, Mr. Speaker, is 3 times what the farmer gets paid, because the farmer is not involved in the eventual sale of their coffee. That's what this bill, Mr. Speaker, seeks to, the mischief that this bill seeks to cure. Mr. Speaker, I am shocked that when we started doing this bill, we were moving very, very well with even with the Ministry of Agriculture. Somewhere along the way, Mr. Speaker, we parted ways. We parted ways. Where we are in agreement is that we want to establish a coffee board. And this bill is establishing a coffee board. This bill, Mr. Speaker, is establishing a coffee research institute, the way it used to be. Because you remember, when I moved the bill, I did indicate that I do not want to go back to what happened when the board was revoked and all the functions taken to AFA, all issues related to crops were taken to AFA. And that is where we the management of both coffee and most of other cash crops, most of other crops starting to dwindle, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to establish a coffee board. This bill seeks to establish a coffee research and some of the amendments which we do not agree with from the National Assembly, the National Assembly has brought to us, is that we do not want to wish away the county governments. Mr. Speaker, agriculture is wholly devolved. It's a wholly devolved function. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is inconceivable that you would have amendments that wish away our county government. How, Mr. Speaker? These are the same. These are the same county governments are the ones that are in charge of cooperatives in the ground, are the ones who are in charge of crop development in the ground. Mr. Speaker, what I seek the House to note and the country to note is that whereas National Assembly passes budgets, and whereas county